thank you guys for staying. I think we had an awesome day. I feel energized and have a lot to think about, and I hope you feel the same. So I'm just gonna, I know I'm between you and the reception, so I'm just gonna ask people to reflect on some of the key things. Nigam, what surprised you today? Did anything surprise you?
Well, there's people still here. Like this side, I don't know, they kind of half gone, but this side is still here, so
I know.
I'm with them.
Yeah. Anything else?
Editors of medical journals saying we need to go faster. Refreshing.
What does that mean? Does it mean from 7 months to 6 months? But
well, that depends on whether we start using GPT for reviewer 2, and then we'll be instant.
I want to know. Curt, what do you think based on what we heard today? And sorry, I didn't prime you guys with these questions, so you're hearing the raw answer. What do you think the future is going to look like?
Bright.
Is that all?
Yeah.
A couple things that stood out to me. First of all, my favorite part of this meeting is the breaks, because it's such an active room. People are talking to each other. The lunches. I mean, that's where a lot of the learning and progress happens. So that was amazing to me. I really was gratified by seeing all of that happen. I was gratified that we didn't hear very much the word agentic. I thought that would be a big theme of this meeting, and only because I think I really subscribe to what Julia Adler-Milstein said in her plenary, which is that there'll be lots of AI, it'll be embedded in all of these systems, and we won't think very much about, well, is that AI, is this AI? And so there will be AI agents, if you want to coin a term, which I don't want to do, but there'll be lots of AI algorithms running, working together, influencing each other, providing us a good user experience as we care for patients. So I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a soapbox, but I don't know why we need to coin a new
real
word
content and
for that.
not buzzwords is what I'm hearing from
exactly.
you. Ethan, what was most exciting to you? What makes you excited about what's to come based on what we heard today?
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out most to me on how some of the earlier panels, I think someone described it, Karan Singhal, OpenAI, I think Google, the rest of the panelists, right, described really that things were not just moving fast, but actually accelerating, right? So I think if we can kind of extrapolate where we were 2 years ago and where we are today, and how things are still moving even faster, right? We go from text, images, now to voice. And I think that, for me as a clinician, is really, really exciting, because think of all the amazing use cases. I think everyone has already seen the breadth and range of everything from interesting pilots to things that have already been deployed at scale. So that's what I'm most energized about.
All right, so this is my last question, one question for all three of you. And I'm hoping that this spurs conversation during the networking reception, and maybe, who knows, there'll be some new startups or new project ideas. What are the big problems that we still have to solve? I'll let you say 2 or 3 at most, because Nigam's I got a list, I know.
I got 5, but I'll only pick 3.
Okay, fine, you can do 5.
So I think in the keynote, Julia made the point, I think it was point 3 or 4, which was about systems thinking. We have to get to systems thinking. We can't keep putting a widget here, a widget there, and then study its ripple effects and hope for the best. That's not going to work. So how do we study that? How do we have systems thinking in a system that is a misnomer? I characterize healthcare as like a mall of 5,000 small businesses that don't always like each other. And then all of those P&Ls have to work together, but we do have to find a way. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is we might be falling into the Turing trap. And that's a phrase Eric Brynjolfsson often came up with and talks about, which is that we think of doing with machines that we already know how to do as humans. That's a very replacement mindset. We need to start thinking about what are the jobs we can do with a machine or human plus machine that we would never imagine doing as a human unaided. And I would love to see more of that next year. Like, we're done doing diagnosis agents, right? I mean, that's like, been there, done that.
Nigam has put a challenge, a flag, he's planted a flag, so.
And then the third big one is we have to think about value differently. And that came up a couple of times, and I'll plant another analogy in your head. If you ask whether washing machines save time, the answer is no. We get cleaner clothes. And so if we keep asking, does AI save time for physicians or for whoever, we're going to be disappointed. Scribes and automated responses and summarizers and so on. Maybe they'll save a little bit of time here and there. But we'll get something else. In case of scribes, we got physician satisfaction. But that should be intentional and not an accident. So we have to start thinking about value differently. So those are my top three.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, it doesn't save me any time because my clothes are like laying on the bed waiting to be folded.
So washing machines don't do that part, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
No,
but Gmail was supposed to fold laundry. There was actually a like a feature request for Gmail 15 years
I
ago.
think my life has gotten worse with email. All right. So what problems do we have to solve, Ethan?
Yeah, I think looking back at some of these amazing discussions today, to me, it's two things really that I'm always talking to, my lab mates, researchers, friends from startups about. One is think carefully beyond just clinical value, right? Often, as we've seen, right, it's not lack of that sort of clinical impact and real utility. A million things, really excitingly, can really bring so much value to healthcare systems today. But really, it's around kind of, hey, who's actually going to pay for this? And so that's the first thing. And I think the second thing that is, and it was great that we ended the last conversation around regulations, because sometimes in the absence of regulations, it also means people are more nervous about building things because they're all afraid about liability. And I think that as these things become clearer, I think we'll start to see many more really impactful solutions being deployed. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, yes, I'm just looking at my notes here. So a couple things. The foundation models panel I thought was very interesting in a couple ways. One, Emily Altsensor talked about two things that I find really compelling. One is reasoning over time, and the other is calibrated generative responses. Those are things that I think we need to work on and that are highly relevant to medicine. I know in my world of radiology, 99-point-something% of all of the models out there are looking at one image at one point in time, and that's not the way that we practice. If we see something that's 2 years old and the nodule in the lung hasn't changed, then we know that it's probably nothing. And it doesn't really matter how it looks at that point. So those concepts, I think, are very important. And it gets to something, if any of you were here yesterday, I showed a slide looking at the gap in medical data that we have today. So if you look at the largest data set that's been used to train either a language model or an imaging model inside of medicine versus outside of medicine, it's about 100x difference today. And we know that the size of the training data relates strongly to the accuracy of the model when it's trained. So to me, that just illustrates that these foundation models, these new training methods that we have, when we can train a foundation model on large amounts of high-quality medical data and perhaps incorporate some of these temporal reasoning features and well-calibrated text generation, we can develop the same kind of phase transition leaps in performance that we saw in November 2022 when everyone experienced ChatGPT for the first time. So that's kind of one set of things, and I see you want me to give another one, or you want me to stop there?
No, I just wanted to chime in that the AIMI Center has been a leader in having the pipeline and the process that allow people at Stanford to be able to make our data de-identified in public for AI training. And I think, there's so much more that needs to be done, but I just want to acknowledge that AIMI Center leadership, which I'm not a part of, so I'm just, the leadership.
We're all a part of it, yes.
I'm part of the center, but I'm not
Yes.
part of the leadership, so I can say Yeah, so I just want to say kudos to that because you guys are still it's been several years and this is still the leader and people still look to Stanford and the AIMI Center for data. But you can say your next comment, sorry.
But thank you, Roxana, that's very nice. The next point that really struck me is there was repeated mentions of the need for monitoring over time. And I think back to when I was studying AI in the 80s, it took 4 years at a PhD and you'd build a system and maybe it would work for 3 patients. And that was awesome, right? Now, if we have the right training data, we can build a system in a week that has far better performance than we had today. That's the good part. The bad part is that these newer systems are really sensitive to changes in the data that we feed to it. So just one example, we had a pneumonia algorithm that was being used in a prospective clinical trial at Intermountain Healthcare across urgent care sites. And this was in 2019, 2020. And all of a sudden, COVID came and pneumonia looked different and the model just didn't work anymore. We've had other experiences where we have a model that's processing data from CT scanners and we change the software version on the scanner and the model stops working very well. You can imagine similar situations where you open a clinic and all of a sudden the disease mix or the patient mix changes. So this need for monitoring, I think, is incredibly important. It's also, I think, even more difficult in many ways than was described here because, yes, you can build the dashboards and think about how to monitor over time and observe the system, but you need something to measure the system against. So just take the pneumonia model. Patient comes into the emergency department, they have a cough, they have a fever, they get antibiotics, they get better. Did they have pneumonia? How do we know? We'd have to review each chart perhaps with an expert to decide whether they may have had pneumonia and to judge them against that. That's really not a scalable way to monitor. So then you start thinking, well, maybe we can monitor process. So we'll ask the radiologist or the emergency doc, do I agree, do I disagree? And then you monitor agreement rates. Well, that's something. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I that was a fascinating theme through the meeting. I think it was really good that we talked about it. And I think it's a really hard problem that is yet unsolved.
By the way, is like my 1.5-year-old's favorite phrase. I know that Nigam has a burning comment, so I want to hear it.
It's about time. So, and I'll do a quip so it'll stick. That in God we trust. Everybody go to the AIMI Center and get data. Curt talked about studying things over time. We have released a data set through the AIMI Center that allows you to study imaging and EHR over time. It's 5 years of data, CT scans, MRIs, and the longitudinal EHRs. So I challenge people in the audience, go get the data set, and next year, come back with an answer to the challenge Curt put out in terms of what are we going to do about time. It's about time we start taking time seriously. And it is about time we end too.
Yeah, it's about time to be done. Thank you guys again, and thank you to our amazing speakers and planners. I hope you guys had a good time. There is a networking reception outside, so we can still keep talking about these things. And I'm glad they have a challenge for next year. You have homework now, so